Hello and welcome to the next in the series of Java worksheets for Computer Science 1213 Introduction to Computing. This week we're looking at the representation of a string. Last time we looked at numbers, integers, floating point numbers as variables. This week we're dealing with characters as variables. There's character variables and string variables. On the worksheet, there's a table that declares a variable called letter as a character variable. Now, a character variable has a limit of 1 character length. So in this case, letter becomes an A. It can only be 1 character at a time, so it's an A. Then we have another one that's a string type, and it's called word. And this variable word contains the information food. It can be longer than 1 character. So we have a character type and a string type. And the letter and the word are the names of the variable, and the contents of the letter is an A, and the contents of the word variable, in this case, is food. Now, when you have a string or a character variable, there is a numerical position related to each character. So if we look at the string character, or the string variable word, it's food, and there's numbers associated with each of those characters in there, as shown in this table. Those numbers are called index numbers. It's the index for that content of that variable. So the F has a number of 0, the first O has a number of 1, the second O has a number of 2, and the third or fourth letter has a number of 3. One thing you should note is that the index numbers always begin with 0. How many characters do we have in this variable? 1, 2, 3, 4. What is the highest index number in this variable? 3. So here's a very important point. The highest index number is always 1 less than the length of the string. The highest index number is always 1 less than the length of the string. And the reason for that is because it always starts with 0, which puts it 1 off. So number 1, it says in the first 2 lines of Java code shown above, it's talking about this set right here. I'll let you answer A. B, what syntax does a programmer use to indicate something is a character literal? So a little help on this one. It's these single quotes. That's the syntax, or the characters used to identify that as a character variable. Uses a single quote at the beginning and a single quote at the end. So I'll leave you to number 2 to figure that out. I think I've given you enough information for 3 and 4. Now on this number 5, it says sketch a list with indices numbering each character for the string hello world. What it wants is this kind of a table where we use food, have the characters across the top, we have the index numbers down below. And one thing to keep in mind is that this space between the 2 words needs to have its own spot. So the space is a spot. It's ASCII 32, so it needs to have its own index number. And I'll let you figure out the index numbers on these. Now in the second method, once you have a string object, you've got some sort of a variable, you can apply methods to the string. So here's a string variable, hello world, and Alice. And looking at these procedures on the left, these are things you can do to the string. You can change the text. You can add to the text that's there. You can delete a range of text. You can delete a character at a particular index location. You can insert an offset. You can replace, starting at a particular point, ending at a particular point, and putting in what you're replacing. You can set a character. You can move the variable as a unit. You can move it around. Those are procedures, things you can do to the string. We also have functions. See, there's two tabs here. This procedure tab, here's a function tab. And Alice, the colors are different to help you designate which one you're looking at. In the functions, you get information. What color is the string? How transparent is the string? What is the length of the string, the width, the height, and the depth of the string? And down here, in the string, what's the character at a particular index? What's the distance above something? What's the distance behind something of the string? And this will replace the contents of the string. So these are things you can get information generally from the functions, or do things with the string over here in Alice. Now here's some Java code related to a string. The string is called greeting. It's a string. This is the type. This is the name of the variable. And the name of the variable has the contents, hello world. Notice the double quotes. Now it's going to print out something on the screen. It's going to print out the length, and it's going to print out a character at a particular spot. So let's look back here at the Alice information. This other type function looks at the variable, and it returns the character at a particular index. That's the same thing as this last line in Java. And the other one, length, is up here. For this variable, get the length. That returns the length in Alice. Most string methods have a return value. Both of these lines have a return value. And it says give both the return value and its type. So what's going to be returned? What kind of type is going to be returned when you get the length? Can you have a fractional number for a length? No. So you may need to look at last week's worksheet to figure out the type. It also wants the value. And number 5 might help you with that value. Now the second line, print out of the variable greeting the character that's located at index number 0. Now this 0 right here, these inside these parentheses could contain a number anywhere from 0 to the length of the variable minus 1. and it would be valid. The number that goes in here is called a parameter. Notice number 9. In the table for this model, the information the method requires is known as the parameters, and it's given inside the parentheses. This is a parameter, and I wrote down a definition for a parameter that I found. This is just math. You could do it with alpha characters as well, but in mathematics, it's a quantity whose value is selected for the particular circumstances and in relation to which other variable quantities may be expressed. That's a lot of words. The quantity whose value is selected. So up here, the selection was a 0, and we could have picked any valid index number for the variable greeting. For the particular circumstances, because we want to return that character to which other variable quantities may be expressed. If you put in a different number than 0, you're in this string, you're likely to get something different printed. You could get something different printed if you put a different number here. And that's what this is saying down here. A quantity whose value is selected, we selected 0, we could have selected something else, to which other variable quantities may be expressed. This is saying the other variables being printed out based on the value that you put in the parentheses. One determines the other. So parameters change within a method. This line right here can be considered a method. It does something. It's going to return the character at index 0. It could return the character at index 2 as well if you put a 2 in here. But another thing I want to mention, though, is that a method can be as small as one line. Many people think about a method as several lines of code. But a method does something. And this does something. That one line does something. So that could be a method. If you need to isolate that, you can make it a method. Nothing wrong with that. So down here on number 9, what parameters does the length method require, and what parameters does the character at method require? Number of parameters and their types. So the types we talked about last week and this week. For numbers, it's the double and the integer, and for strings, it's the character and the string. And how many parameters are required? So I'll let you figure that out. So I'm leaving a lot for you to do on this particular worksheet, but with a little thought, I don't think it's going to be that challenging. If you have issues with any of the questions, please send me an email and I'll help you through it. That concludes this week's worksheet video.